Welcome to Story Punk. I'm Scott.
And I'm Drew.
Hey, Drew, would you like to talk about our very special movie this episode?
I have a lot of enthusiasm about this film. I'm going to tell you a little fact I learned about it first. This is two facts. This is the last movie in our Halloween horror series of scary movies. I hope you guys have enjoyed those. As you know, we've had some various levels of opinions and quality and discussions about the movies, which I think is exciting. And
Quality has varied.
I think this episode will set a similar benchmark. So this movie, I'm going to tell you what it is in a minute. This movie has actually got an important place in film history. It was the first movie that was ever digitally color corrected. And I don't know if you all out there know exactly what color correction means, and you don't need to know exactly what it means, but essentially it's about controlling the colors that you see on screen. And when you do it digitally, whether you're good at it or not, you can control to a degree that was never able to be controlled before. So lots of movies now are, if not maybe all movies, are now color corrected digitally. And sometimes when you see an older movie, there's all these stories when Seven was put on, I don't know if it was DVD or Blu-ray for the first time. David Fincher touched every frame of the movie, that he was controlling the color and the tones and all this kind of stuff. So the movie we're going to do today is the first time that was ever done, except it doesn't get credit for it because it was made and then sat on a shelf for at least 2 years. So the movie that was done first, which when I say this movie, you'll say, oh, yeah, that was pretty distinct, is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou by the Coen brothers, which is a very distinct look. It's simple to say that movie is brown, but it's not brown. It's lots of different browns and golds and all these different tones, including people's eye color and all this kind of stuff. And I think movie history likes it better that the first digitally color-corrected movie ever, this huge revolution in how you make movies, is a Coen Brothers movie. But actually, the first movie that ever did it is our final entry in our October horror series, a Friday the 13th movie for our 13th episode called Jason X.
Yes, Jason X,
Oh,
which
boy.
came out right after 9/11. So it was the second tragedy that happened in a 6-month period.
Oh, boy.
It was no, boy, please don't cancel me for that. But
No one is canceling you for having a low opinion of this movie.
Yes.
Even though it has its moments, Jason X is not generally considered the best of the franchise, although it has one unique thing about it, which made me enjoy it and want to watch it, which is that it is Jason Goes to Space. And
yes.
If Fast and the Furious, I don't think went to space until the 9th one. So they set a standard that Jason was working towards.
So here's just, and I'll just give a brief rundown of what the movie's about, because
Please
I know
do.
you guys might have trouble following along if I don't tell you what.
It's very sophisticated
It's
storytelling.
very sophisticated. Jason Voorhees, who we all know, is cryogenically frozen at the beginning of the 21st century. And
is that at the Crystal Lake Research Facility
It
run
is.
by David Cronenberg?
Yes, it
incredibly
is.
talented,
Dr. Wimmer.
incredibly talented Canadian director.
That's
Because you
right.
also have to remember, it's definitely a contender, the most Canadian movie ever.
Really?
Everybody that's in it, everything
Really?
about it, the music,
Oh, it's
it
not
just
even
feels very Canadian. That's not an insult. It just feels very Canadian. Unfortunately, it feels very Canadian late 90s television.
Yeah.
So it's not the world's most sophisticated cinematic experience. But, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So then there is a jump in time. This happens all very, very close to the beginning of the movie. So there's not much time.
Was it 400 years or something?
So then there's a jump to the 25th century, and we are the body is taken to space because there's these scavengers that are Earth, which we find out is actually Earth 1 now, has become inhospitable.
Yeah, it's a dump, and no one
Yeah.
can live there.
So-
Like Wally version of Earth. or
Yeah,
something,
but
or Soldier.
even worse because there's storms and shit like that going
It's
on.
like Soldier, where everything is a dump.
There you go. So these scavengers find this research facility, and they find Jason's body, and they find there's actually a researcher. I don't know if she ran the facility, whatever. She got frozen by accident as well, and they take both bodies up to they bring them back to their shuttle, and then the shuttle goes back up into space, and then I'm sure you can probably guess what happens next. Jason gets thawed out, and he begins stalking and killing the crew of the spaceship that's transporting him.
It's like an alien movie but instead of Alien being what it was, which was kind of like a slasher in space kind of vibe, this is an actual slasher in space. And I'm going to tell you honestly, as far as the concept, it's not really an improvement.
Well, here's if you think that Jason Voorhees going to space is the desperate last gasp of a dying franchise, no, you were absolutely right.
That's true.
And the irony of the whole thing, apparently it was supposed to be like, this is supposed to be like a joke, like real meta. But I do think, and something, I kind of joked about when it came out, which, sorry, 9/11, never forget. I understand. But but no, I mean that seriously. I'm not trying to make light of that.
So
but
you're treating 9/11 seriously. I think that's appropriate, and I believe you.
I reverence for that. But I think it's placed in horror history that this is coming out post Scream, where Scream was really the first movie to go face head on the meta references of horror movies. I think, don't you think?
I would argue, actually, made by the same director. I would actually argue it's the I guess the 7th Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Freddy's New Nightmare, which is about...
Wait, but that came out before? I thought that came out after.
I think that was a year before.
You must check that on that internet box.
That's about the people who made the movie.
Yes.
And the idea of that movie is actually kind of interesting, which is that making horror movies brings evil into our world.
I thought that was... But honestly, I felt like Scream was the first time I remember people in a horror movie talking about horror movies. I never remember seeing that before. When did...
Right, so Wes Craven's New Nightmare was in 1994, and I believe
Scream was definitely like 96 or 97. So it was after that. Okay.
Yep, 96.
Okay. But regardless, we are in April of 2002. We are now in a horror movie world where being self-referential, being, quote unquote meta is that is like a that's just a thing that's become more common at this point.
Well, the most important part is that's making movies that are hits. So everybody wants to get in on that.
Well, yeah, but the problem here is that I don't feel like they go far enough. This is sort of like, it's like a self-parody, but I don't feel like it's like meta. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like, how people like, and I think part of that is because, I don't think there's opportunities for that because of the setting. It takes place in the future. So are you really gonna, there is like I think there's one person that's not the woman who got cryogenically frozen with him. There's one person that knows who Jason Voorhees is that's in the future. So you don't really have a lot of opportunities to talk about scary movies, and you know what I mean? There isn't
that's true.
So I think that's sort of where I'm coming from on that.
Also, I think that the Friday the 13th as a franchise, with at this point almost a dozen movies, I guess, or maybe a dozen movies. It does other things. It does things that other franchises do or try not as well.
And and
which is why I don't really care.
And I understand it. And I feel like so this is where we were kind of because we had so many that were set in and around Camp Crystal Lake, and then we went to. I think around 89 or 90, we had Jason Takes Manhattan or whatever.
I want to talk about that one later.
But yeah, I won't go too much into it. But it's where do we go? Where do we go next? And it was obviously space was their answer.
No, look, if they made another Mission Impossible movie, I know Tom Cruise would go to space. Instead, he's trying to make a movie that they'll shoot on the space station with Doug Liman, who he's worked together before, including Edge of Tomorrow. But it is a place that implies you're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Call of Duty went to space, stuff like that. Although I don't think it is always a bad thing. I'm not going to pretend that this is a great example of that working successfully, but I will give Jason X credit. It commits to it.
Yeah, I mean, it does. You're looking at it's obviously a franchise that's become self-aware, and they're trying to have a sense of humor about, I mean, some of the things that they say, hey guys, he just wanted his machete back.
There's a couple things
that
are funny. One especially, which I know we'll get to.
Yeah, you're talking about at the very end, the VR thing, and I won't get into it beyond that. But I mean, it's definitely, but the plot is so weak. It's so weak. All the stuff. It's literally it's trying to decorate a piece of shit. It really is. So sorry.
Well, I think part of why the movie is not exciting and successful is the problem that a lot of the Friday the 13th movies have, which is all the characters are not memorable.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a problem because I still know Heather Langenkamp's character, and she's not even in all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, which I don't love those either, but they at least hold together a little bit more. As I was watching Jason X, which I saw once before a long time ago, mostly because I heard it was Jason in space and there was some funny stuff in it. So I rented it from Amazon for $4. Thanks for the investment opportunity. And I was struck by two things. I found most of the female characters, which there are more female characters in space than male, the word I kept thinking was indistinguishable, because they basically are all young Canadian actresses. They're all vaguely pretty with similar looks, and they all wear clothes from, I think you said Hot Topic from Hell, that both, first of all, don't seem like appropriate to wear in space because they all have their midriffs showing. However, they do have their midriffs showing in a variety of different clothing styles, so that is exciting.
There's that. I feel like also this whole idea of the we're keeping this thing to study its regenerative process, regeneration. Process.
Right.
That's a whole.
That's
I
the whole
feel
thing.
like it's been it's been used a lot.
Well, but also Jason doesn't die because he's got a scientifically a scientific process you can investigate, which is that he regenerates. Like Jason Voorhees is basically a liver or something. Okay. I didn't need that to explain why he's an unstoppable killer. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where movies start to explain things that you don't care about because you weren't asking that question.
And about, like late in the second act, all of a sudden the movies becomes like a ripoff of, it's like a YouTuber's version of Aliens. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah. For some reason there are soldiers on this ship, and there's a whole sequence where they hunt Jason after he's revived. They hunt him through the ship, which apparently is it honestly reminds me of, I'm blanking on the name of it, but we're old. So when we were growing up, you could go and play basically laser tag at Photon and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
and the primary experience of those is that it was dark because they basically just had boxes and like metal grates and stuff, and that's what this
they put
ship is.
Glow in the dark tape on it.
Right, exactly, and that's what the ship is, and it's not. I don't think it's like edited incompetently or anything, but a lot of the set design and the it's as indistinguishable as the outfits because it's just dark. It's not modern dark movies where you literally can't see anything, but also you don't care about any of these characters. And who cares?
I don't remember. I remember the woman who was the research facility. I think her name was Rowan, and David Cronenberg's character, Dr. Wimmer. Those are the only two people I remember.
Well,
in the whole movie.
the other problem in this movie, this whole genre, of course, is the kills, and there are very few kills in the movie that are interesting. The first one in the future is when a woman that's doing science on him. He wakes up,
science lady,
and he freezes her face and then smashes her into the counter.
That's
some
best
creativity
part of the movie,
to that, at least. Everything else is him, hitting you with his machete and stuff.
You know what else is special about this movie? Special to you? It's your favorite kind of movie. It's a bottle movie.
That's true. It is. It is a bottle movie.
We actually are sponsored by a bottle manufacturer, and every time that Drew references a bottle movie, not to say that he's not correct when he says it, but it does seem funny that we've talked about a lot of movies.
We've done a few of them.
Oh yeah, we've done more than a few.
And this is an example of how sometimes a bottle movie can increase the tension of the story, and sometimes it's not good. So yeah.
And the thing about that is that by its nature, a bottle like episode of a TV show or of a movie should have some sort of natural built-in like tension, and this just does not at all.
It just doesn't escalate, and I think some of it is diffused by the fact that they're diffusing it with humor, and then a lot of the humor isn't funny. And I'll be honest, it's also possible that some of the humor might have been funnier except for one big sequence towards the end. Some of the humor might have been funnier in 2002 or whenever it came out. That hasn't aged well. And I don't mean aged well like it's blackface or something. It's just, I don't know. It's just not funny.
I will say, okay, so here's one thing, and it's not
because officially, Storypunk wants to state blackface.
Blackface is not good. But because that really needs to be that and Jim Crow. Not great.
Bad.
Not great.
Bad.
Because that was my brilliant Sinners observation. Sorry. I hope you guys know that we are good people. So when you were talking about things that, it's, humor for that time, this isn't a terrible indiscretion, not something that someone would get canceled over, but it was just like it fell really flat when they go, we've got 2 viables on board. One's a female. And the guy goes, female? Well, we know she's single. Or I think he was a woman? Well, we know she's single. And I was like, oof.
Just dumb. Look, it's a slasher movie from 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That is a franchise that was born in the 80s. Like I don't think anybody holds up any of those movies as
but
this is a paragon.
When he said that, it was like
fighting misogyny
well,
or
we
something.
know she's single.
Yeah, it's gross.
Thanks, dude.
Although he's also in a lot of Canadian TV shows and is enjoyable.
He? Yeah, I mean, I recognize him. I just.
That's the thing. You recognize everybody if you are our age, because if you watched any TV, they were in sci-fi shows and stuff like that.
That's the thing. None of the people from I think
they were in shows like Lex and Andromeda, which I
what
didn't
do you call the Rowan? She played Ra's al Ghul's daughter in the CW Arrow TV show.
There you go.
For 3 episodes or something
go.
like that. So yeah,
Lexa
that's
Doig.
That was the highlight of some of these. Nobody really went on to do anything of note. I think. Isn't the guy who's the soldier? Isn't he the guy that Gerard Butler kicks down the well in 300?
Peter Mensah plays Sergeant Brodsky, the commander of.
He's
the
probably
soldiers
the
on
most.
the ship.
He's probably the person that did the most famous thing post Jason X.
Well, he's got a very distinct face, and he's very memorable. And
yeah,
he's the one that screams, "This is madness!"
In his eyes,
yeah, and Jared Butler screams, "This is Sparta!" and kicks him into the well, which takes an hour because it's all in slow motion. But yes, I mean these are not
because it's Zack Snyder.
These are people who, I mean, a lot of them are people who worked steadily for a long time.
Yeah,
a lot of it in Canadian television. They're not like. It's not like an amateur movie where it's bad performances and stuff. I think that they are let down by a script that is less ambitious than we're going to make a lot of jokes about our movies and our franchise and the fact that we've been around forever and we're going to go to space and stuff like it. I'm not going to say I'm upset that this wasn't up for Oscars level of quality or something, but I mean it could have used a little more.
And I'm going to speak ill of the deceased. Now the director is no longer with us. He had cancer. He died in 2012, I believe. He was a special effects guy.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I don't think he may, and this is the more stuff that I just came across online was that the performances, some of them you can put on the actors, but some of the overall unevenness of the tone, you kind of have to put that on the director, I think. And I feel like some of the stuff comes across flat.
Well, look,
nothing really landed for me.
Some of the special effects work he did was on epic movies.
Like Return of the Jedi and Gremlins.
Yeah, and he did Enemy Mine, which, whether you like it or not, had really distinct effects and makeup. He did Arachnophobia. He did...
the facial
Virtuosity.
prosthetics for Luke Gossett Jr. on Enemy
amazing.
Mine were amazing.
But he did also one of my favorite movies of all time.
What's that?
When you look at movies that I love that my wife hates... not just because it was a movie we saw on our second or third date. Existenz. I love that movie. And
the organic guns.
And video games you plug into an extra butthole on your spine.
I watched
stuff.
that. I remember nothing other than the gun. I remember and I remember the guns made a weird noise when you shot them.
Well, because they shot teeth.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah, they were made of bones of mutant amphibians, and they shot teeth.
I vaguely remember. I remember watching that.
But again, this is a lot of work on Canadian projects and stuff. And he worked on other Cronenberg movies. He worked on Naked Lunch and stuff like that. So this was a guy taken from us too soon by cancer, but a professional guy. And sometimes these guys who come out of effects they get the opportunity to direct, and some of them turn into careers as directors, and some of them turn into
like
Alien versus Predator Requiem.
The guy who did was it? I think it's Greg Nicotero, I think.
Well, Greg Nicotero is a legend
Yeah.
in special effects, and also, I mean, he's still doing.
But he
Walking Dead
directs
and directing stuff.
He directs.
No, he's a good example of
Yeah.
somebody that did that. And also, I mean, I've heard that he's just a very creative and energetic guy to work with and work for and stuff. And so I'm definitely not knocking special effects guys, especially people who were doing practical stuff before everything became CGI. And everything became CGI is not a knock either.
But the CGI on this is very
the animation
low budget.
is very low budget and very rough. Even though some of the designs, like of the shuttle, where it looks like basically like a bell end or a mushroom, you don't see a lot of that. Yeah. But again, the movie doesn't have a lot of personality.
Yeah, it is. There's something very sterile about it. Like it just seems like you never really get you never really connect with. I mean, I didn't personally. I didn't really connect with anything.
Well, I think a lot of that is
honestly, David Cronenberg, that whole scene is the best when it comes to if I had to say if there was any acting or anything, that's the best part of the movie when it comes to acting.
I think the big thing that it does itself a disservice is, which is not surprising because this is not a big budget movie or anything. And what I'm about to say is not a knock on the department of the film that did this, but the production design is very 90s television.
Yes.
So it's very there's not a lot of detail. There's not a lot of
90s
world
Doctor
building
Who,
in the way it looked.
90s Doctor Who looks better than this.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's.
Or actually, was there Doctor Who in the 90s?
There was a movie with.
That's right. Yeah, there wasn't
John,
very much in the 90s.
Name?
That was the only time.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But so I mean, some of it is that. I mean, you can compare it with another trapped in a ship with a monster movie like Alien Romulus, and obviously it's a different beast. But also, I mean, just the world that they built of what the ship is and stuff like that. I mean, they have a lot more money, so I don't fault it for that.
Yeah, but here's something that's very interesting. Did you know this movie? I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting, but that this was the least censored Friday the 13th movie, as far as cuts they were required to make to maintain the R rating, which I guess I'm not surprised because it just seemed like. I mean, I didn't feel like they were going because I feel like, and I want to get into this in a minute about the place that Friday the 13th has in sort of in horror and especially slasher horror, and that is I feel like what they did with Friday the 13th, what its innovation, if you want to call it that, were very brutal kills.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because I know they had them in things like Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street, but I felt like it was the first one where it was oh shit, he really did that to that guy,
right. And they tended towards the more gory side.
Yeah,
as well.
It was gory and very it was when he hit somebody, it was it just felt the way that they shot them, and not so much, not really the first one because that was spoiler. That was his mom.
What?
Sorry. I know it's like what we're talking about 40 years ago, but so sorry if you hadn't watched that one. But when
really
it's actually
much.
once we have Jason doing the kills, they were very brutal. And I don't remember movies before that where it was you felt I mean, you had a little bit with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sure.
But it wasn't
But see, that's a good example that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another very smaller movie. I don't know if you technically call it micro budget or something like that. But that movie, the atmosphere it builds, the production design, that movie is creepy.
Yeah.
And for a movie that's about a guy who kills people with chainsaws, which is wildly impractical, that's a movie where people remember things that didn't happen in the movie. There are people who will tell you when he lifts up a girl and puts her on a meat hook that you saw the meat hook come out of her body after he hung her, and it's really bloody. It's not. But it's really, really unsettling because he does put a person who's screaming on a meat hook.
Yeah.
But that movie, the grimy surfaces, the filth of it, the silver door, the big dinner scene at the end,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. The blood feels really real, all that kind of stuff. That gives it a lot of atmosphere that a movie like this doesn't have. And some of the Friday the 13th movies they're much better at that. They only spent real money on the fifth one or the sixth one or something. And so like Jason actually, sometimes he takes his mask off and he's a monster or whatever. And sometimes it's like it literally looks like a puppet on a stick kind of thing.
I mean, it was also the movie's too clean. The movie's definitely
Jason X.
Jason X.
Well,
too clean.
that's honestly that's the Canadian television vibe.
Because like I think about like
to me,
talking about and comparing it to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how grainy the film was. Everything. The scene where the girl's inside the house and then you see that door slide open and Leatherface comes running out and she runs out onto the front porch, and it's just like that graininess of the film, and he comes out and grabs her around her waist and pulls her back in. That scene is terrifying
really
because
upsetting,
it looks like it just looks like something like somebody just like caught on film. You know what I mean? Like it's really disturbing and upsetting to watch that. And it's like you watch something like this, and this feels like I mean, honestly, there are people out there on YouTube right now, and granted, we know resources are things are much easier to do, but there are people on YouTube that are making stuff that looks 10 times better than this.
Right. But if you make a movie that's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, people are always going to say, hey, good job. That looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't think anybody is saying, hey, good job. That reminds me of this thing about Jason X or a lot of the other Friday the 13th movies.
It was very Jason-esque.
Right.
And it's funny. I was like looking at a list of some of the other movies that went to Leprechaun went to space. Leprechaun 4.
Oh, yeah.
Leprechaun 4 went to space, and so did Hellraiser Bloodline. I think Hellraiser Bloodline, I think, was the one that went back and forth. Like I think it was like set. Part of it was set in the future, and then would bounce back to like something in the past. I believe.
I don't know if I've seen that one or not. I think I have and don't remember it.
And then Critters 4, which I had no idea about. I just found that when I was just researching other movies that had gone to outer space. And I mean, obviously, non-horror movies. There is, there's
well,
Fast and Furious.
I mean, there are movies in space.
Space.
Apollo 13 goes to space and it doesn't go well.
It's not part of a franchise, you goof.
What are you talking about? There's Apollo 10 and a half. There's Apollo 11. There's Apollo 13. There's Apollo 18. It's a whole series.
Apollo 3. Is that the one which is the one that burnt up on the launch pad? This is totally not.
It's Apollo 1, but that was real life. That wasn't a movie.
What?
The movies there is a movie Apollo 10 and a half. And
did we actually go to space?
In real life? I mean, I am confident that we did. It's not everybody
not Stanley
believes
Kubrick
it,
production?
Yeah, no.
I'm joking. Obviously, I know that. And the Earth is round.
It sure is. Another stance taken by Storypunk. The Earth is round. It's a little. It's an
opinion.
Middle.
It's an opinion held by experts around the world.
Nice.
So
good job.
I want to talk about, as we sort of like get into the home stretch here, that I want to talk about when I watched this movie. That this movie was so bad it made me reevaluate Friday the 13th as a franchise within horror. So if we look at the three big ones, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, in the slasher genre, and Friday the 13th.
Like all the late 70s, 80s franchises that invented this genre of horror.
I felt like if I had to kind of rank those, I definitely would put Friday the 13th at the bottom because I felt like I said it was innovative in the sense that it sort of mainstreamed like the brutal slasher film.
And it made a ton of money.
Yeah. Well, not this movie.
No, but the first one. I mean, like that's why they kept making them because they were like people will see any of these movies. But there's a huge range of quality in all the franchises, of course. But this one I think started lower.
I felt like I'm being annoyed because I'm looking at my notes and I just realized I spelled an easy word completely wrong. But like
then we're not airing this.
We're not going to forget it. No, the Halloween I think is to me the most interesting lore wise. And then followed by I felt like Nightmare on Elm Street was very like the kills and everything were very creative. So it wasn't so much not that there weren't brutal kills in that, but I thought there was a lot of creativity. Now that creativity varies throughout the different movies, but some of them are very like I felt like the first one is actually pretty decent movie. The first Nightmare on Elm Street, I like that one, and the Dream Warriors one are the two that I like the most. But I feel like overall the first Nightmare on Elm Street is it's just like I just think it's a good movie. But
here's the thing, though. I think it also depends on what you want to get out of these movies.
Okay,
there are parts of Halloween that are scary to me, that are unsettling.
Yeah.
And not every Halloween movie has that, but there are scenes that, like when I think it's one of the kids is looking out the window and you just see Michael walk out of the house carrying a body. He like walks out of the house and walks around the back or something. I mean, I found that chilling because it's so wrong and it doesn't fit the environment and stuff like that. I haven't seen all the Friday the 13th movies. I've probably seen more than I remember because I don't remember them.
Yeah.
But none of them are scary. I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street movies are particularly scary. And if you want a slasher movie, that may not be what you're looking for. You want the kills. You want that, like the Freddy with his
I think it's
glove and stuff. It's more creative.
It's more anxiety inducing,
right? And I don't feel
scary.
that, right? But I mean, I don't personally feel that. I love a horror movie that has dread and stuff like that. They don't really do it for me, which doesn't mean I think that they're bad. It just doesn't give me what I want or what I think they're trying to give me out of the movies.
I feel like the first one
Blade Runner.
Oh yeah. I hate Drew. Making fun of my movie. Anyway, so but like with the first, I do feel like they do that in the first movie. And then as we got into the second movie, for Nightmare on Elm Street, that is. And as we got into the second movie, that's when they started. I think that's when you start seeing a lot more of the one-liners in Nightmare on Elm Street.
He quips.
But like the first, yes, it was very quippy.
He's the only one that talks of these characters, of course.
But yeah, that's true. But the first one, I do feel like there was a lot of. I do feel like they built up a lot of things, a lot of suspense, a lot of dread, because there was, if you remember, there was a lot of. There was. It was very distinct in the first one, anyway. The sound of his metal claws up against like metal, and so you would hear that, and you kind of knew that something was going to go on. Although I do question whether or not metal. Against metal like that would make that noise, but hey, it worked for me at the time.
Look, I mean, that whole environment, talk about world building, the whole environment of like the basement with all the steam and grimy and stuff. I mean, that
I love one of my favorite scenes in the first Nightmare on Elm Street is when she's having the dream and you don't realize it's the dream at first, where she Nancy gets up out of class and she's running down the hallway and she knocks into this girl who you don't know at first. You don't, maybe you do or don't realize it. She's wearing the same sweater that Freddy Krueger wears, and she's like, and she gets up, like she knocks into her, and the girl gets up that's wearing the Freddy Krueger sweater, and like her nose is bleeding or something, and she's like, "Where's your pass?" And she turns around and she goes, "Screw your pass," and then she turns, and then it's Freddy Krueger, and he goes, "Remember, Nancy, no running in the halls." I love that scene. But there's also like the whole scene, like talk about inducing dread, like where there's the body bag of her friend that got killed in the beginning of the movie is being dragged down the hall. So you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And then that's kind of when you start to realize.
I do like them. I mean, I don't think dreams are that exciting to talk about outside of therapy or something, but I do like movies that make you unsure of the reality of it, and I know that Nightmare on Elm Street is trying to do that. Like Existenz, when you go between the real world and the game, literally like watching like tabletops in a restaurant turn into a comforter on the bed that then you end up seeing that the characters are actually laying on. It's very dislocating. Like the movie The Cell, I don't like that movie. I don't think it's a good movie, but the director is very talented at making these very memorable visuals, and some of the way that the characters they're basically trying to go into a serial killer's brain. So when they pass from them in the very strikingly designed dream facility where they go to sleep in, basically when they slide between the world that they're in a lab into his brain, it does that. It achieves that moment that's very that's very anxiety inducing, and it's very disorienting, and I dig that.
But I mean, let's be clear though. When we're talking about this, isn't someone talking about a dream though.
No,
So
I'm
understand,
saying,
but you're saying, but hold on, but you're
portraying a dream.
But I know, but what you're saying is like you don't find dreams very interesting. Well, no shit, I don't find dreams very interesting either. But when someone tells me their dream, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, what's going on here?
No, but me being inside my own dream could be very interesting.
It could be.
Yours inside your own dream.
But what I'm saying,
not realizing
not
realizing what's real.
Yeah,
that's what's interesting.
But that's what
and that's what the movie is doing.
Yes.
Except for Nightmare on Elm Street, most of the time that doesn't work for me, and that's disappointing because I like that. I look for that. It just for me personally, it just doesn't do it for me. And that would have made the movie more unsettling to me. I understand a lot of people have that experience. I'm sorry that I don't. Some people will watch Mad Max Fury Road and go, and I'm sorry that they don't have the experience of it. But that's not me saying that Nightmare on Elm Street is bad. I think Nightmare on Elm Street is a significantly better movie than Jason X.
Well, that's true. But no, I guess the point I was trying to make was that I felt like you were trying to equate like the movie being about a dream was like the same as someone talking about a dream.
I'm sorry. No. I'm talking about the experience. The experience of a dream, and not knowing what the dream is.
Yeah, I was like, because that's not.
I probably wasn't really clear because some movies, like horror movies in space, aren't really clear what their goal is.
You know, and it's interesting though. As bad as this movie was, I feel terrible that we're just like destroying this movie.
It's okay. It's not good.
No, it's not good.
Director's
but
dead,
do you know
fine.
that it actually it tripled its money, the money that it made when it went post theater sales, like for like DVDs. It did actually really well.
It was in the era of our movie. I hope our movie makes money at the box office, but if we play it right, it's going to make real money at home. And that doesn't exist anymore.
Unfortunately, that was a whole thing. There's a whole discussion about that's part of the reason why we find ourselves in the era of the big budget, huge action, like Marvel, DC situation, because nobody wants to take chances because there isn't that second wind.
Right.
It
is funny though to make a movie that you're like, we're gonna have to be conservative with that, so we're only gonna spend $380 million.
And then, but like, I mean, this movie pretty much. Well, actually, before I jump into this, I just want to talk about. Obviously, I think we do have to mention this before we would wrap up talking about this movie. Is that the VR scene? There's a VR scene where they're trying to basically, I guess, buy some time. And Jason, that he goes into like
it's basically a holodeck
from
Star Trek,
and it is,
which we see earlier in the film, which doesn't look very convincing.
Yeah,
and then the way that they use it in this scene is fun.
Yeah,
because
it's fun.
he's suddenly he's been upgraded, so he has
he's
has
Uber. They call him Uber Jason.
Right, he has a new mask, and they shot off pieces of him that have now come back as he's a cyborg slasher, whatever. And that's a fun, silly thing. That's fine. But when he goes into the virtual world, he's in Crystal Lake, and I like that he's like confused.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a lot of personality, and he's confused.
Probably is the best part of
so
the movie.
So that's kind of fun. And then he sees two girls. And the girls are like, "Hey, do you want to drink? Do you want to smoke pot? Do you want to have premarital sex?" And they take their tops off because we love premarital sex.
Yeah, because the program only understands like this, like late 20th century.
Yeah, it's from they look at the 80s movies.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is what the girls want. They're topless and they're and they want to smoke marijuana and they want to have sex, and it's just like it's so silly, and that was like the best part of the movie, to be quite honest.
It's fun. Look, and then he picks up the girls in their sleeping bags and smashes them on each other and against the tree, and they're giggling.
I know
it's silly. It's got some personality.
And he's like, what the.
Yeah, it's very silly. And I don't know that scene should have been longer. If he was at Crystal Lake for 25 minutes, I don't know that would have made things better.
Would that make the movie better? Maybe.
But I mean that was a kind of creativity, because I do, like lots of other people, enjoy movies that successfully comment on themselves, especially when they're old, when they've been on a long time. One of my favorite X-Files episodes ever was written by Darren Morgan, who wrote some of the most creative episodes, and it's Jose Chung's From Outer Space, and it's Charles Nelson Riley playing a science fiction author, interviewing people at like the classic alien abduction thing, and the way that they, like, if you just watched it, there's kooky stuff in it, but if you know the characters, if you know if you know Mulder and Scully, which apparently I don't, don't. If you know Mulder and Scully, the level of the humor and the creativity and stuff, it works. And that's very
Scolder and Mully.
Scolder and Schmully. And that's very satisfying.
That sounds like a Catskill comedic duo.
And it has one of my favorite things in all of the X-Files as far as comedy, because Charles Nelson Riley is interviewing this kid who witnessed stuff, and he saw Schmully and Skickle, and they're like, the men. They're basically like Men in Black, which are also Jesse Ventura and Alex Trebek in the episode. And Charles Nelson Riley looks at this kid who's very nerdy and whatever, and he goes, "Weren't you scared?" And the kid goes, "I didn't play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons without learning something about courage." I'm like, that's funny, and that's funnier than anything in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is ostensibly playing in the same turf with scenes like that. And that's the most successful scene. It's funny.
I think what's also interesting.
And it has boobs.
There you go. Also that the so I don't know if there was, so I think Freddy versus Jason was after this, and then the only thing after that, they did a reboot in 2009
of just called Friday the 13th.
Yeah, they did a reboot. I can't remember if I watched that, or to be honest with you, it didn't make an impression on me. For some reason, I think I watched it. I don't really even remember.
Doesn't it star like one of the stars of Supernatural or something? So we're still pulling stuff out of Canadian produced television.
So, but
I'm sure it looked better and was more expensive.
Yeah. And but since 2009, when they came, there was like all kinds of like rights issues. They were trying to, they couldn't do any more movies, and it was like a whole big mess.
Yeah, people own different pieces of it, like what kept Spider-Man movies from being made for 20 years or something.
So apparently now I saw that they're making a Crystal Lake, like it's like a prequel, like TV show.
Well, that's the thing now. You go to Stephen King's had at least 2 series, like Welcome to Derry.
Welcome.
We go back, and so it's got the clown. It's from it. It's got all this different stuff.
Is Welcome to Derry the new one?
I think so.
There's one coming out.
Yeah, that's the new one. There was a Castle Rock one, and all
that's right. That's the other one I'm thinking of. I heard that was good.
I heard it was fun. I mean, I don't know. It's pieces of other things, and Stephen King has written, a couple of things. So there's a lot to pull from. So,
and but really, the franchise had remained dormant. But it's never dead, just like Jason.
Well, see, to me, the thing is also about these movies is that they spent no money on them and they made a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there was also, I think, and I feel like some of the producers would admit this, that there was a low effort involved on some levels of making the next one and the next one and the next one. Like they had one that was directed by a guy who did porn. So he had very specific opinion. Yeah, he had very specific opinions about how to direct certain scenes and things like that.
I'm sure he did.
But it didn't make a better movie. And to me, some of this stuff, and it's not so much the meta stuff, some of the stuff, at this point, you're in the 5th one, you're in the 6th one, you're doing comedy, just like, Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. But there are moments in these movies that they could have said, I'll just work a little harder at the story. Like Jason takes Manhattan. He goes to Manhattan for the last 4 minutes of the movie, and he tells punks not to bother him or whatever by staring at them.
I love the scene walking down the street where he just like destroys the person's boombox.
Yeah, like it's all very sad. And that's a movie that I think, if I'm remembering it, the premise of the movie is it's a bunch of like high school kids on a school trip, and they get on a boat that goes on Crystal Lake, that then they somehow sail from Crystal Lake, which is a lake, to New York City. Fine, whatever. But I think that's the one where Jason is walking through Manhattan and he sees a billboard that's advertising the Eastern Hockey League.
Okay.
And there's a hockey mask, a goalie mask in the middle of it. So he's like seeing himself. And I remember I saw that movie and I was like, oh my God. We're gonna have Jason on ice, and he's gonna have a machete hockey stick fight, maybe with a bunch of goalies. That would be so silly. Nothing like that happened.
I know.
Nothing like that happened.
The thing I remember that sticks with me besides him, the guy's listening to the boombox, and he just walks right, just like blows it up, like walks right through it, destroys it. When he fights the guy on the roof and punches his head off.
Yeah, I mean, there's silliness in it. That's
off.
Fine. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like if we're still doing this in 25 years, which would be nice. I don't think this will be one of the movies or episodes that I'll want to revisit.
No, I thought you were going to say if we're still doing this in the next 25 minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to, I'm ready to be done.
Yeah, do you have anything else that to add?
I sure don't.
Okay, well, you know what? Then I guess that's a wrap on Jason X.
And a wrap on the Halloween this year.
And the wrap on our Halloween. This is our lucky 13th episode. And we'll be back next week. We're going to be fighting vampires for the heart of Santa Clara. That's a little Lost Boys reference there.
Yes, the Lost Boys the musical opening soon.
Is it really? Get the hell out. That's crazy.
They're selling tickets now for the Broadway premiere.
I have to say, and I do apologize that I when I started about 25 minutes into watching this, I was like, man, this was not the Halloween episode that a movie that I should have recommended for the Halloween episode. But you know what? It's funny because it's goofy.
Nobody's perfect.
So, and I guess also in wrapping up, I should say you can, of course, find Story Punk on your favorite podcast platform. I mean, we're on pretty much all of them. And if you don't, let us know. We'll try to make sure it's on there.
Absolutely. And that people are already, and I encourage you to do this if you haven't, liking and subscribing, leaving reviews. Yes. That certainly helps us get out there. This is our 13th episode, and we've been getting really good feedback, sometimes from people we don't know in real life, and I appreciate that too. But everyone that's responded thoughtfully and most importantly to me is enjoying it. Thank you so much for listening, and more to come.
Yes, and just real quick, we are on Storypunk Pod on Instagram, Storypunk Pod, and we're on Facebook. And I'm on Letterboxd as Storypunk Scott, and Drew, you are on Letterboxd as well.
Solid Gould.
So that is it for our Halloween scary story. That's really bad. I sound like Count Chocula. Anyway,
now
but
I'm hungry.
From there on,
Count Chocula might be more satisfying.
Count Chocula cartoon might be more satisfying. But with that said,
it makes the milk chocolate when you're done.
I've heard.
I love it.
But with that said, remember, story matters.